Okay, howdy everyone. Welcome to our Product Development 101 workshop. And today Shrey will be talking about a lot of useful things. Shrey, you can take it away from now.
Perfect. Hey guys, Shrey here. Hope you're all doing all right. Um, yeah, so today is kind of an interesting workshop. It's more of just understanding and evaluating your projects and how to develop them into a functioning, self-sustaining product. Um, let's actually let's get started. I am Shrey Shah. I'm the current vice president for DSC. I'm actually graduating this semester, so if y'all want to reach out to me, here's my Gmail, and it's Resha33 on basically every social media. So um, if y'all want to reach out, those are the best ways of reaching out to me. And yep, let's get started. So why do you actually need to learn more about product development cycles? Well, the main reason is to elevate your projects. Like everyone who wants to get a job or who wants to get an internship will work on projects to show that, hey, I'm experienced, hey, I can do something and go beyond that, right? But everyone does projects. Uh, How to make your projects look different? How to make your projects look a bit more, if if it means a bit more polished, a bit more different than other people's projects, or making them as good as product. What does that mean? Making them products is essentially making your project into something that other students, other audience members, other users can use. And you can give them all of the benefits that you're getting from that project while they're using it. Um, For example, I saw a problem with laundry machines being used and nobody coming back to get them um, opened up, and the group me was being spammed due to it in my dorm house hall. So what I did was I created a simple HTML form which people can um, go to by scanning a QR code on their laundry machines. And when they did scan the QR code, it'll take them to my form where they'll fill out, hey, here's my number, here's my email, and I'm using this laundry machine. And then my backend would keep track of those machines and then send them out text messages and emails when the laundry was done. So not only was I able to allow all of these people in my dorm to get access to the software that I made, but it also did solve a problem that everyone was facing. So just like what I could have done is had the project just limited to me, and I could have told people about it and just say like, hey, I developed this. If you want to use this, go ahead. But what I rather did was I actually did put it in the dorm so that other people could use it, and that elevated my resume because then I could put useful metrics in there saying that like over 100 people used it. I got funding from the dorm, and so and so and so, right? So just that added line in the resume got my first internship. And that's how projects should work if you really want an internship or if you really want a job, right? Um, so yeah, what are the stages in product development cycle? Well, there's designing, and there's developing, and there's testing, and then there's deploying. There's also a fifth hidden step that we'll get into later, but here are the four main steps. So design, develop, test, and deploy. Pretty simple. Design, you first think about a product, you think about a project, how it's going to help out other people, and how its UI is going to look, right? Develop is basically taking that wireframe, that design that you made, and making it real, coding it out, learning a lot more things while you're coding that, while you're developing it. Testing can be taken various different ways. One is self-testing, like basically doing unit testing throughout the project and making sure everything lines up and all of that. But Another form of testing is also just showing it to people, getting them to use it. That'll help you find bugs faster and in a more efficient manner if you know the right procedures. And then deploying, it kind of combines in testing, but deploying. So let's say the first testing, you're only giving it to 5 people, only 5 people have the link, right? You only shared the link with 5 people. While when you deploy it, let's say you print out a QR code and stick it to a wall in like a high high foot traffic area, like a laundry room in your dorm, and that means that you're actually sharing it. It's hosted on the website, on the web, and people can access it. So that you technically deployed it, you marketed it in a way, and you're also maintaining it in a way because it's already on the web platform. And if it's down, you'll do something that will allow you to go back and um, just like work on your project, right? So is everyone clear so far? I'll open up the chat. Okay, I see no messages in the chat. If you have any questions in the meantime on whatever I'm talking about, or if you have any tips, um, it's a two-way street. So like basically mention whatever tips you have or questions you have, and we'll get them addressed today. Um, right, let's hop on to the next slide. Design. So essentially the key point is you have to design, and then this has some sort of testing related to it, which I'll get into in a second. But so design, then test that, and then repeat, which means redesign your current design to make sure that everything that you analyzed in your testing gets applied to that design, right? Let's say if I want to make the world's best search engine, and I develop it according to what I like, and then I show it to one of my friends, and they're not even able to find the search bar, right? You learn from that, you implement it in the design, and then show them the second version. If that makes sense. So that's the whole crux of redesign. That's why the re isn't emphasized, because you have to keep designing until you're at a stage where like, okay, this is good to go, right? Um, so yeah, design. Start with something simple. Make a simple wireframe. Make doesn't even have to be colored. Make it grayscaled or something hand drawn. So something that can describe what your application might be, right? Then making sure that the users um, can access every single part of your application in a good, decent, funneled way. That is important. And then there is dry test, as I was saying, like if I show it to someone who is my friend, or let's say if you know that person X is your targeted audience and you want to run it by them, go for it. They'll be obviously, if it's going to help them, they'll help you in figuring out what the issues are. And basically redesign, reiterate, go through the design again, figure out where the bugs are, where you can make updates, and then go through the whole process again. Now, the important part in project slash product design is knowing when to stop, because you can keep making it better, and every single time you'll be able to make it better and better and better. But the important thing is like, okay, I think this is 80% accurate, and I'm going to go forward with it. Because while developing, you will always tweak your design. It's never going to go according to your design unless you're a god and you know exactly how to develop your design, right? So you reach a point when you're like, okay, it's saturation. Like if I design any more, or if I make any more changes, it's not going to change the way I'm going to develop it. And um, and that's what's key, like understanding when to stop and when to move forward, right? I see a question about resources that will help them design. That is literally my next slide. um, so you can use Figma. Okay, these are in decreasing orders of, I guess, sophistication. Um, Figma is a tool that I've used in the past. I've used it on my own projects, my startups, my job, literally everywhere I've used Figma. If you've never used Figma, I would highly suggest you take like a small demo on YouTube, or I'm sure there are courses on some websites out there. Essentially, what you can do is you can mock the whole user experience on Figma. The important part with Figma is that it can consume a lot of time. So you need to do it justly and understand where, on what aspects you spend the most time, right? Um, I've had weeks on my internship where I've spent time on Figma just to realize like, hey, I have to scrape this whole design. So like all of that week's work was bad and like basically useless, right? So understanding how much effort to put into it is the key with Figma. But if you use Figma, there's no other better tool, in my opinion, than for design purposes, right? If you don't want to use, oh, by the way, Figma is also free. So like everything is free. If you want to work with a team, Figma education is free up to 4 people, I think. So you can create a team of up to 4 people with Figma education account. If you don't want to do that, let's say, and you want something which is less, I guess, hmm, less like granular and a bit more like quicker, like you can mock up something in MS Paint super quickly, super efficiently, and the only difference between, I guess, MS Paint and Figma will be one. Figma gives you CSS at the end. So if you are building a website and you have a mockup already in Figma, it develops the CSS for you. So it's super easy to import. With MS Paint, you have to do all of the basic things. Plus, on Figma, you can mock the user experience. Like you can have interactions like, hey, if the person clicks this button, they go here. On MS Paint, you obviously cannot do that. And Figma has plugins where you can import, um, let's say you want to use a material UI. There's a material UI, I guess it's called a sheet, or at least it was called a sheet when I used it. But essentially, it'll have buttons, scroll wheels, everything that you need in an application, right? Everything you can mock up, it's ready by modules, so you can just import them and use them via copy pasting. Versus on Paint, you'll have to literally draw everything, right? Um, and the last part, is drawings. So if you're on a call and you want to convey some idea, right? Figma and MS Paint might not be the way to go. Quite recently, we were working on a project with the DSC, and we were on a meeting with the board members of a NGO, and we needed to display how this idea would turn into a website. And we use drawing because you're live with the person. I can draw it on my screen, uh, on an iPad, or literally if you're in person, papers, right? That's how great ideas come, on a bar stool with the tissue, paper towels and a pen, right? You can draw it, convey the idea, and get feedback on it. Obviously, it is not great for wireframing stuff. Obviously, it is not great for um, like mocking up your whole website interaction, because like it's going to take a lot of time, going to take a lot of effort, and it's easy to misplace and hard to change. Um, in that order, like the most granular will be Figma, somewhat in the middle will be Paint, and the last one will be drawing. There are other tools out there. I think there's one by Adobe. I keep forgetting its name. I'll send it in the Slack in the recap channel once I'll find the link for it and I'll send it there. But hopefully these were tools that you'll use in your projects that will help you design your websites better. Yep, it is Adobe XD. Thanks, Dakshika. Um, right. So the second part of it is developing. Um, all of you, I'm assuming, are students and either great with coding, or you think you're great with coding, or you're still learning, still trying to figure it out. Most of us are on that second page, still learning, still trying to figure it out. And for that, it's literally like projects are the best way to do that. But product development adds a layer of sophistication on top of it, which you don't generally see with students, because you will have to well document it. You will have to well, I guess, arrange it. Like organization is key when you're developing a project that has to go for on a long run, right? Because the whole difference between a project and a product is the product survives, the project might die. And that is the major crux of developing well for a product rather than a project. And this has been seen in multiple companies. Like if you have an internship at Google, right, you'll barely write 1,000 lines of code throughout your summer. Why? Because it's well planned, it's well executed in a way where you know what you're going to write. Everything is designed, everything is up to perfection until that point. And when you're working on that project, or I'd say a product, because it's a company, um, you only write 1,000 lines of code because it is well formed, it is well organized, it has its place in a specific module, inside a specific tool, inside a specific product, right? Um, so th- the key is you understand where everything is going. It is all very well documented. Now, if you're working in, let's say, a company which has fast development cycles, and you go through a lot of product development throughout the summer, which I did. If you're in a startup, you will definitely do that. Um, at that point, the documentation still stays there, but the well organization, you keep changing it until a point, and then halfway through the project you realize, oh wait, there's a better way I can organize it. And then halfway through the project you reorganize it, and then it looks better, right? Versus in the first case, what I explained was you've got 1,000 lines to write and you know where it's going. Versus here, it's you're building as you're going. And I don't know, it can go up to 20,000 lines, it can stay down to 2,000 lines, but essentially the key is you evaluate it, you upgrade it, you organize it as you go. But documentation has to start from the beginning. Um, so yeah, again, two major phases of development. One is code. As I said, documentation and readable code saves hours down the line. I I think this was one of the professors whom I took a class with, who said 1 hour of planning saves 10 hours of coding, right? So like if you plan it well, you can save up to 10x time in terms of coding. And that planning has to go in via documentation, because then you can do like you can create a to-do list and have everything planned out, basically sort of a scrum for your code, right? And second is, even while you're developing, it's really easy to forget who or what you're developing this for. So let's say if I'm developing a search engine, and I keep adding features to it, right? But the key feature of it, the search bar, is not really um, worked on. And like it throws the whole system out of whack. Like it's something that is super important to make sure, like, hey, I am developing something that potential people are going to use it, or potential companies, or potential whoever is going to use it, right? That is the key while developing a product versus a project, because a project is usually for a single person. A product is for multiple people. So making sure everyone can understand your features and use them is key. Um, Many times you will also create an API that might be open to the public, right? And that's important if and like documentation and like formatting is super important in that case because if the API is open to public and they're free to use it, that means that your documentation must be so robust that they cannot break your website or they cannot accidentally send you a different request than the request that they were supposed to send you, right? Again, this is way down in line. This is way down. Like, let's say you made a great product and everything goes out, and they need the API or something like that, right? Um, but just keeping that in mind is important. And tools. So here are the three tools that I use the most while developing a project/product. Um, VS Code, I 100% recommend it for any beginners or any intermediates or any advanced people. Um, if you all prefer Vim, I'm fine with it, but VS Code is better, in my opinion at least, because of the cool plugins you can install with it. I have a list of plugins that I can go through later if anyone wants to see them, but it just makes the coding experience so great and so succinct. So VS Code is a great tool. I highly recommend it. Like in all of the tools that I'm talking about today, VS Code and Git are probably the topmost tools, right? Um, Git, if you've never heard of it, please do Google it, learn more about it, explore it. We give workshops on it on the DSC, and many other organizations do it as well. So figure out how to use it and get started with it. For those who don't know, it's a version control tool. So basically, it's like Google Docs but for your code. So it saves all of the versions of your code, and it's easy to go back and forth, work on a separate feature, join it back into the main code, and it's just great. It's the best thing that happened to coding. Um, Many people confuse Git with GitHub. I'm not specifically saying do GitHub. There's other ways of doing stuff, but Git is essential. Um, Loom. Now, Loom is actually a startup based in San Francisco, and um, the key with Loom is it's nothing that's groundbreaking. It's nothing that's like game changing, right? All it is, it's a screen recorder. And the great thing about the screen recording is that it goes on the web and saves it there. So it doesn't use space on your laptop or wherever you develop, right? Um, the other great thing is when you share it via Slack or let's say anything, the metas contain the actual video of your sharing. So you know how cards appear on Slack or how cards will appear on like let's say WhatsApp, Discord, Telegram, whichever thing you use. Loom will generate that card based on the video. So what that does is gives the person you're sharing your story with a quick glimpse at what you're trying to share and how it works. So let's say if I'm working on a feature and I wanted to share it with my friend, I would quickly record a Loom recording. um, it's really simple. All you do is if you're on a Mac or Windows, it's an app you download, you click on it, and it'll guide you through the whole thing. And essentially, what it helps me do is keep sharing all of these features or progress with potential users or potential like I guess teammates or whatever you guys think of. And it will help you get feedback immediately, not once you're developed, once you have everything ready, but immediately on the spot, like because you can easily take a video recording of it and share it. You might feel that this is very basic or this is very not important. Like obviously you can go to them in person and do whatever thing you want. I feel that this is way better in terms of solving issues right at the doorstep rather than going like 15, 17 hours into development and then realizing, oh, I made a mistake and I need to remove this feature. just something that you learn with, I guess, bad bad coding practices. At least in my experience, I've had various cases where I had to go back and delete stuff for in hackathons and projects and internships. But Loom was when I was like, okay, this is something that I can use and make myself better at making sure that I do not move forward until I get someone's opinion on the code that I've written or on the product that I've developed in that short period of time. And Loom really helps me with that. There's multiple tools which do the same thing, but I just prefer Loom. Yes, Loom is free to use. There's a few feature limits on the free model, but it's free. Um, I can send a link later in the recap channel in this Slack. All right, we are getting towards the end of things when you're talking about testing. Um, well, again, as I said, there's two different ways of testing. One is unit testing, you do everything, and the other way is alpha beta testing, which you might have heard of from a lot of startups or like a lot of product developers or something that you always look at, right? Like beta test, alpha test. Not a lot of projects go through the beta alpha test uh, procedures. A lot of products do go through it. So there you go. That's the major difference. And if you do those tests, right, those are great to put on your resume because this is the one key factor that differentiates you from all of the other projects. Like, okay, you designed it, you developed it, great. So did like 50 other projects, but nobody actually tests it to their target audience, right? So that is important. So yeah, just because you, so this is my take on why unit testing is probably not the best way to go. Well, it is still required, but it's still not the best way to go for, right? So just because you've counted all the trees doesn't mean that you've seen the forest. What that means is, let's say uh, you've tested each feature and each feature combined with another feature on your project or product. Um, it doesn't mean that you've found all of the bugs. Let's say the bug is not in a feature, but rather in the way it interacts with you, right? Let's say a bug is not at all in the code, but just the way things look on a different computer, right? Um, so those are very important and key features that you will definitely miss unless you show it to some other people. Maybe the bug is only on some weird version of Linux, or maybe the bug is only on Windows instead of Mac, or Mac instead of Windows, or something that can throw it out of whack, right? Um, Maybe somebody was testing it on a BlackBerry phone from Stone Age, and like they had it, they had the bug. So that's the key, like figuring out the bugs and the major bugs. If you're working on a website, which most students will, it will be on cross-platform issues, right? And you cannot always test them via yourself because let's say if you have an iPhone, right? Uh, there's like literally like less than 10% chance that you also have an Android phone. If you have a Mac, there's a decent chance you also have a Windows machine, but Linux, right? iPad, Samsung tablet, all of these other things, right? Like the layout makes your project slash product weird to use, and that might be a bug. And there's no clear way for you to test it without giving it out to people. And you can do closed alpha rounds. What closed alpha rounds means is you just send it to a few friends, right? Ask them not to share it, report bugs to you, and that's it. Um, I I recently developed a product called 100 Days of Code. It's a VS Code plugin, and it's all open source. And I went through all of these steps that I'm teaching y'all today. But that one had a bug on Linux where the timestamp came in different than the actual time due to some reason. And we could never figure it out like until the end, like why Linux was malfunctioning. because obviously nobody tested it on Linux. Like everyone was on Mac and Windows, and like this one computer kept sending like thousands of requests to the database, which is freaking out the database. Um, and it was something to do with the timestamp being in milliseconds versus seconds on Linux, or something along those lines, right? So, um, so you will never be able to pinpoint the bug until you give it out to people and various groups of people with various different devices, ideologies, different mindsets to test it out. An engineering major will see look for something different than a philosophy major, and that's always key while testing. Beta testing is more or less just giving it out open in public for anyone to use, and it's just a conditions applied clause where like, yo, it might be buggy, it might stop, it might crash your computer, something like that. And then there's one other form of testing that not a lot of people know about, but it's super important in the industry. It's called A/B testing. Um, so let's say you have a product, right? Let's say you're developing the next Google, the best search engine that has ever been. Um, and you want to see, does the color of the search bar affect the way people search, right? Something super, I guess, weird, but um, something that you might want to check for. And there's no clear way of doing it until you get mass data for it. And the way a lot of people will do it in the software industry is by doing an A/B test. So what they do is they split their user base into halves, and it's done by a simple process that y'all can learn more about. But this is deep, deep, deep into product development strategies. Um, so basically, half of the people get one version of the website, other half get the other version of the website, and then you see the interaction rates based on those websites, right? And you understand the metrics. I have a lot of tools that I recommend for metrics. I have not put them here because they're kind of like advanced. They're after the whole product development cycle. So if you would like to learn more about them, just mention in the chat and we can have a discussion about them. Um, but essentially, that A/B testing, what it allows is you to understand the metrics, like okay, making the search bar turquoise allowed me to have a better user interaction than making the search bar white, right? Like something like that. Something weird. It can be something like, oh, button placement. Like if I place the button over there versus at other position on the page, it makes a difference. And you can test that via A/B testing. In fact, if you just use what I said and probably word it differently and in a better way and Google about it, um, you can use it in interviews. It is one of the top things that software developers do not expect students to know: A/B testing. And when you go into an interview and start talking about how you A/B tested your product, and it can be simple, like you just send two people two different links, two different hosting websites, and that's the A/B testing. Um, they will be impressed. I have used that in an interview and I've gotten offers based on that. So like A/B testing is something that not a lot of people expect you to know, but it's something that if you do know, it is great to have on your, I guess, tool set, skill set. Right. Um, okay, with terms of testing, there are a few tools, as I said, with metric detection that I can get into later. But for testing, I'm not showing you any tools right now. All right, deploy. Um, Deploy is, I guess, a technical term for just making your website available to the masses. In one sense, in my sense, deploy is literally making your website not local, right? Or your project not local. Like anyone with the potentially right credentials can access it. Um, and then I say that the tagline below it is share, maintain, repeat. And yeah, that is a key part of deploying. Okay, how is deployment different from beta testing? It is actually not. So when I say testing, all of these phases go hand in hand, right? And like this will be very clear in like step 5 that I said, like it's a kind of secret step. But deployment is not much different than beta testing, except for the fact that deployment uh, is just posting your product or sharing your product or marketing it, versus testing has that inherent ideology of getting data out of it, getting something that's learnable, getting something that's tangible out of it, versus deployment is just making it available, right? Um, and that's the only difference between them. Like the whole way, the whole perspective of attacking it is different. Um, yeah. So let's actually get in directly into tools, because you all know basics about deployment, I'm assuming. Or if you don't, I'll get into the weeds here. But if you're working on any web-based platforms, right? Um, Google Cloud, Netlify is my favorite in the whole list, by the way. In the first four, I guess. The last four are different. But in the first four, Netlify is my favorite. If you're working on a quick deployment project that does not require backend source or something like that. um Heroku and AWS. Heroku is like AWS but for the masses. GCP, we can help you with that in the DSC. Getting started with Google Cloud Platform, because we have study jams, we have resources for that we can share with y'all, and it's kind of important if you want to get into, let's say, Google, right? It's their tools, they'll use it in the future, and if you say you're GCP certified or if you know GCP, it's good for one company on the planet that employs the most software engineers. Um, then comes the second phase of things. I just realized I could have made this slide look a bit better, but sorry about that. But the second phase is, how do you make your product available to the masses, right? One is hosting it on marketplaces. So let's say I made a VS Code plugin, it's on the VS Code marketplace. I made an app, it's on the App Store. I made a website, and I want to demo it, and I want to share it with people. I put it on Reddit. A lot of people gain foot traffic for it, right? So just thinking about what drives the most foot traffic to your website is important. Or we'll get into native apps later, but you get the idea about marketplaces. Product Hunt is one such thing that you can share anything on, and I'll get into Product Hunt a bit more if anyone wants me to. But essentially, what you can do is you can talk about a product, post it basically everywhere, and then share it on Product Hunt. What Product Hunt is like a community of just people looking for great products to use, and it can absolutely make or break you. Like I think Zoom was launched in Product Hunt, Slack was launched on Product Hunt. Um, I think if you go there, like Zoom still, or some Notion was launched on Product Hunt. So all of these great tools, like they were launched on Product Hunt, and these are the only ones that I know about. I'm pretty sure most of the tools that you've heard of will be launched on Product Hunt, because it's a key phase of like startups and um, all of these corporations to get their products into reach of other people. Uh, um, and there's rankings, daily, weekly rankings about on Product Hunt. And if you make those rankings, there's a decent chance you'll get like 10,000, 15,000 people onto your website, product, whatever thing you built, right? Um, Social media is a great tool of marketing your product. Now, obviously, you're not working on let's say like a startup level product, at least right now. You might be later. So like, use social media in like that idea, like you don't absolutely spam people about it. um I remember in this internship I made my first tweet ever, and it got over 2,000 views just because I used the right tags in the right uh ads in the tweet, right? And it was about the 100 days of code product that I told you about earlier. So social media is great. Like I got a retweet from one of the biggest um, newsletters about software development, and it was crazy, right? So like social media can be a great tool, but you also have to be, um, I guess, knowledgeable about that. It stays on there as an internet history about what you were working on and how you were working on it, and like it's a double-edged sword. Like, okay, if it's a great product, social media can help you bring it up, but if it's a bad product, you'll get a lot of negative, I guess, feedback on it if you have a lot of followers. And if you tag the right people, you might be able to explode it, right? Um, and yet there are many more tools. If anyone wants to get into it, I can go into product hunt later. So like, there's a couple of things that I can dive deep into later, and we can do like a discussion on. One of them is the metric tools that I was talking about. The second one is product hunt, because I feel like not a lot of students know about it, and it's an absolute beast of a way of sharing your things with people. And product hunt is generally more forgiving than social media. Right. And here comes the big step, the one step that I've been talking about the whole time. Repeat. So if we go back, right, up here, when I say design, redesign, test, develop, deploy, it's essentially a loop. Um, you design something, you test it out, you test it out with your, like, I guess, a dry test, then you develop it, then you actually test it, unit test it, you deploy it, right? um, then you want to alpha test it, do it, right? They give you feedback, you have to redesign, redevelop, retest, redeploy. And it's basically a cycle. And that's what is called maintain, right? If you look at the last part of deploy, it's maintain. Um, Maintaining your code base is probably the most important part of this whole project, of this whole cycle. Because if you don't maintain a product, right, it tends to die. Uh, uh, let's say if Facebook never added another feature, it would have never left the dorms. Let's say if like Google doesn't keep adding cards, like 5 years ago, you wouldn't know the score of a game unless you like Googled it and went to a website. Now there's cards, right? Like if you keep adding features, if you keep maintaining it, if you even keep removing just the bugs that people find, it will help your product stay alive. And this sounds weird. Like if you don't make any material changes, it's fine. But it's somehow it helps your product survive. I guess it just helps you stay on track, and that keeps that thought in your brain, like, okay, I have to keep working on this. I have to keep serving this. I have to keep improvising this. And that's what makes a great product, right? The four steps are important, but not as important as the last step, which is redoing all of the four steps over and over and over and over again until a point where you're like, okay, this is a great product. Um, I'm not. It's not worth my time anymore. But I still want it out in the world, and I'm going to stop, right? Um, but that's the whole point of like repeating. Um, you go until a point where it's 99.99999% perfect according to you and the users, and you don't feel like there's other things you can add to it, and it's kind of a dead end. That's when you stop repeating, or you have other commitments, and I guess test is an important factor. But yeah, keep repeating, keep improvising, and that what makes a product different from a project. Because a project is one-off thing. You do it, you're done. A product is something you keep working on. And that was about it for like my presentation. As I said, like if you want me to get into other things, metrics, literally any of the tools has like factors or anything that y'all want me to get into, I am free to do that. If you want to put it in the chat, that's fine. Or if you want to speak up, that's fine as well. Okay, so for some reason I was muted. Yeah, I can definitely get into metrics. Um, Give me 1 second. Okay, can you all see my whole screen now?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. With metrics, there's a bunch of different tools you can get started on. One of them is Google Analytics. I'm pretty sure a lot of you have heard about them, but essentially it's free to use. You all it takes is like a couple lines on your web page, and you can analyze the heck out of things via Google Analytics. Um, and like you can go as deep as you want on Google Analytics. It'll give you more granular data, like um, actually. So this is one for one of my personal website. Let me see if I can pull it up. Okay, while it loads, you can get granular data on like who clicked this button, or where are people coming from? Are they coming from a Google search, or are they coming from a link that I sent? Um, what country are people in? What is the most access time? What is um, something that's like related to stuff? And like, okay, so obviously this website has not got enough for traffic, but you can see like in the past, like engagement rate for users has gone up. That means that I'm getting better user engagement, but less amount of users. So pick your poison. Um, then you can get like what country they're coming from, if there are any users in the past 30 minutes, um, just like what did they do? Like, did they scroll? Did they have a user engagement? And this is a single web page website, so I didn't add much analytics to it, but you can get deep into it. Like you can go into like, so I had a medium that I set up earlier, um, and you can look at different mediums and stuff like that. You can even, if you have a website, if you have um, ads or e-commerce on the web page or the product, you can analyze that as well. So it's a cool tool that you can get started on, and it definitely meets all of your needs and definitely does everything that you think about and gets it done right, right? Then there's other tools called Looker, right? So this is somewhat that some tools that usually startups use because it gives you way, way, way more granular data. Um, and like it's still a part of um, Google Analytics, but it's deeper. Like I think Google just bought it. Oh yeah, yeah, Google just bought it. Um, but yeah, it gives you I guess a finer idea about how things work and the how stuff is done on site inside your website and in a more business sort of eco like business funneling manner, right? Um, and this is paid if I'm not wrong, um, but I'm pretty sure there's a free version of it out there. I haven't looked at the pricing after it was bought by Google, so I don't know the pricing data structure, pricing structure of it. But it's a pretty cool tool that you can look at, and I'm pretty sure they'll give you a free ride for students. Um, Segment is another tool. Uh, yep, there we go. So Segment essentially helps you grab data from websites that you generally wouldn't, right? Um, and it's super cool. I think it got bought out by Twilio last year. Um, but you can look at how different tools, different features interact with each other on Segment. Um, and it has, I don't know if it still does, but the last time I did, in the connections section, there's this cool thing where it scours the HTML and it's very visual. Like you can see like this whole thing, it's very visual. And the whole tool, the whole segment system is very visual. And it's really appealing if you're getting started with it, right? And I think it is free to get started. Yep. um, Up to 1,000 visitors a month. So unless you're working on like tracking project, like it's it's great. Um, but yeah, it's a pretty cool tool. I would highly suggest you getting into this. I prefer it a slightly more than the analytics because just the way it interacts with your website, it's just mind blowing. Um, so these are a few of them. There's also like I guess like other things like you can just Google like analytics tools for web, and there'll be like a bunch of them. But these are the ones that I recommend. There's one more that I recommend, but the company might have made it paid, so I'll look for it. I'll search it, and I can send you. I can send the tool if it's free. But yeah, like there'll be a lot more websites talking about this stuff. But the key aspect that I'm getting to with all of those tools is you need to understand what's the golden metric, like what's the single thing that affects your website interactions, right? Like, and which tool can help you better achieve it. Does that make sense? Or like, because see, if there's a tool that helps you achieve your metrics that you want to look at, um, then use that. Otherwise, these are great tools to start on. Let's say if you find out like if someone clicks X button within 3 seconds of entering the website, that's going to make sure that this person is going to be the best possible user for my website. You can find a tool that does that. But if you don't know about that 3 second law or that button clicking law that we just talked about, um, then these tools are a great place to start, right? I hope I did not, I guess, confuse you with a few things here and there because like I tend to do that when I'm talking about data analytics. Um, so thanks, Vishram. I appreciate it. Um, yeah, so anything else you need, I am here to help. Um, if you ever want tools that can help you in the future, I'm just like a message away. So please email me, and we can go deep into it. Oh, one tool that I forgot to mention about was Mixpanel. Sorry, that was awkward, but um, Mixpanel, it is it is so much better at the Google Analytics stuff than Google, but you will need some sort of data entry point. So Google Analytics handles the whole data entry to data out, right? Input, output, it manages all of that. Um, Looker manages parts of it. It is kind of weird. But if you want to go really deep into it, Looker is a great tool. Segment is the data in part of it. And it also has some data out parts of it, but it's okay. Um, as you can see, Segment also sends data to Looker, Google Analytics, and all of these other things. And like it's pretty cool. I really love Segment. And Mixed Panel is one of that data out products where like you can have funnels. So as you can see, I was saying like, okay, first opened app, 60% people opened app. Out of that, like out of those oh no, 4K people opened app. Out of that, 60% people actually signed up, in which 80% people logged in, and like only 32% people added the payment tabs, right? Um, so like you can get deep, deep, deep into granular data, and all of these big companies use it, and I really, really, really like Mixpanel. Um, it is free to start with, if I'm not wrong. Um, and yeah, it's just a great tool overall. It's so much better looking than, yeah, 100K monthly tracked users. You don't need anything more than that. Uh, if you do, like, you'll probably be earning money at the end of it. So pretty cool, pretty elegant tool. I really, really like Mixpanel, just the way its graphics come out. It's really helpful. But Segment and Mixpanel are my top tools here. Then and analytics is also kind of my top, but it's a different sector. Like Segment and Mixpanel are a bit more advanced. Analytics, Google Analytics is kind of not advanced, but it gets the job done. Um, No, Dakshika, it is not necessary for a website to be hosted on GCP. The website that I'm tracking here is actually hosted on Netlify. And that was one of the deployment tools I was talking about. Yeah, it is super simple to deploy stuff on Netlify. Um, Really, really, really easy. Like I cannot stress how easy it is to deploy websites on Netlify. Um, my GitHub pages website is hosted on Netlify. Everything that I do is probably hosted on Netlify after like 2019 because it's so simple. Like, yeah, like this one actually won 2 categories on TamuHacks. Like, it's simple. It's elegant. Like Netlify is just great. I would highly suggest you use it. Um, but yeah, Google Analytics can be used anywhere for that matter. Any other questions? I know it's 9 o'clock, so I understand if you all want to leave. But if you have any questions, please reach out to me, email, Slack. Um, yeah. Also, slide decks. I would highly suggest you check out Slides Go. This whole deck was super easy to make, and I felt it was really cool. So just something.
Well, awesome then. If no one has any other questions, thank you so much, Ray, for the great introduction to product development. And just as a reminder, officer applications close tonight. The link is on our Slack if you want to apply. But other than that, everyone is free to go. Thank you so much for coming.